Learning Undefeated headquarters, this is Let's Talk STEM. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk STEM, a talk show style live stream series where we here at Learning Undefeated talk to professionals in STEM about their careers. Today, I will be joined by a very special guest and a very good friend of Learning Undefeated, Dayalan. But before we go ahead and bring her on, we're going to have you guys answer a few trivia questions about her so you can get to know her and her journey in STEM a little bit better. So all we're going to have to do is go to www.menti.com, that's MENTI.com, and submit our code, which is there below. And you can just go ahead and put in 97 70 58 4, and you guys can answer along with us and we can kind of get to know her a bit better. All right, so we're going to give you guys a few seconds to kind of all join in. All right, I think it's time. Let's get started. Our very first question. All right, so you guys are going to have to guess where our speaker went to college. Now we have three very good choices, all very strong contenders. So we've got already a few votes for University of Maryland. Hometown hero, we love it. Looks like most people are guessing Maryland. All right, well, if you said University of Maryland, you would be correct. Uva is a graduate of the University of Maryland at College Park, and she's a hometown hero for all of us. Very proud to have her from Maryland. All right, and our next question, where do you think our speaker works? Now, if you follow us on our socials, which you can kind of find our handle below, you would know, but you guys can go ahead and take a few guesses. All right, looks like we've got about a 60-40 for Deloitte versus AstraZeneca. And if you guessed Deloitte, you would be correct. Uva is currently a business analyst at Deloitte. So good job, guys. All right, we're going to go ahead into our third question. Meet our guest speaker. This one's a bit of an insider question. So if you know Uva and you know Learning Undefeated, our options are the BioGenius Challenge, our Young Science Explorers program, and teaching at a local school. Once again, we have a very tight race. Let's see if anybody wants to even it out. Oh, looks like YSEP's pulling ahead. All right, well, if you guessed YSEP, you would be correct. Uva actually ran our summer program. So good job, everyone. Thank you so much for participating. You can go ahead and stay on that link and you will be able to ask questions through Mentimeter, or if you want to go ahead and put it in our YouTube live chat, we will also be answering those at the end of our stream. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Uva on. Thank you, everyone. Hello, Uva.
Hey, Kate, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm great. Can't complain.
That's the best place to be. All right, so we're gonna get started. If you just kind of want to give us an overview of your kind of journey in STEM, and we talked a little bit about our trivia questions, how you're a graduate of University of Maryland, and how you kind of got to be at Deloitte.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'd be happy to talk about my journey through STEM. So I would say it probably started in high school. I had some really awesome teachers that taught me AP Chem and AP Bio, and they really sparked an interest and kind of a passion for STEM early on. They showed really the fun side of chemistry and biology, and really started to kind of connect it to my life and where I could see it in different ways. And so when I got to college, it seemed kind of natural to start pursuing a science type degree. But like many kids that are the age of 17 and 18, I was pretty indecisive. So I actually jumped around between three different majors. I came into college as a biology major. Then I decided I didn't want to do that. So then switched to environmental science. And then decided I didn't want to do that. And then finally landed in bioengineering. And so that's when I completed my degree at the University of Maryland and graduated in 2018. But as I was going through college, as much as I loved all of my science classes, learning math, learning physics, getting into kind of the deep biology pieces of the human body, I learned that I wasn't really a huge fan of doing actual lab work, and I was actually kind of squeamish when it came to having to deal with injections and blood and kind of, putting pen to paper when it came to doing experiments in the lab. So I wanted to take a lot of the things that I learned in my STEM degree and kind of apply them outside in something that's a little bit less tangible as a, lab slash bench job, but something that could still impact a lot of people out there in the world. So that's when I actually got introduced to the idea of consulting. So once I graduated in 2018, I actually came and worked for Learning Undefeated for a little bit, but then unfortunately had to leave my friends there and have now landed myself at a company called Deloitte, where I do a lot of healthcare consulting for different hospitals, health insurance companies, different retailers, and now federal agencies.
We obviously were sad to see you go from Learning Undefeated, but you are doing some amazing work at Deloitte, and it is an extremely impressive career that you've built for yourself. So thank you so much for being on today and kind of sharing your story.
Of course.
Yeah. So I think we're going to move into a bit of another game so that we can get to know you a little bit better and before we kind of like loosen up for our questions. So we're going to play Scattergories. I hope all of you are still on our Mentimeter. You can put the code in exactly. Boom, boom, boom. All right. So I'm quite competitive, Uva. I hate to warn you, but we're going to go ahead and get started. I'll share the rules with everyone. All right. So our letter for today is L. Uva, do you know how to play?
I'd love an explanation. It's been a while.
Sure. So basically, we're going to add a few categories for all of us to put our letters in. So all of us have to think of one word, and everyone that is watching, online can go ahead and submit your word at our Mentimeter. Again, the code is seen below. But me and Uva are going to be playing the old-fashioned way, pen to paper, and we're going to go ahead and share our answers and see if we can get any points. If we get the same answer, however, our points are going to cancel out. That means it's a no-go for either of us.
Sounds like a plan.
Let's get into it. All right, a science experiment that starts with the letter L. All right, I think I'm locked in. All right, looks like we've got some answers from the crowd. Uva, if you want to share what yours was, let's see if we overlapped at all.
I said litmus test.
Ooh, that's a good one. I haven't heard that one yet. I said light refraction. I think that counts, right? All right, a piece of equipment used at work. This is interesting because you're working from home, right? Like we're both in our houses, so I feel like it's changed a lot since we've.
No, that's for sure. I have to think about one.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, somebody at home had a really good answer. They just said laptop. Oh, I have one that's kind of sneaky. I don't know if it'll count.
That's hard.
Yeah. All right, I think I'm locked in.
I think I'm locked in too. Can't think
All
of
right.
any good one.
All right. I had logo because we use a lot of branded content. So
I had to go with the easy one, laptop. I don't think I have anything else in my workspace that starts with an L.
I gotta say that's a really good answer. I respect that one, I think. All right, a task you complete at work. This one's even more difficult, I feel like.
This one is really difficult.
Mm-hmm. See if anybody at home has any ideas. Maybe I could steal. Oh, those are all good. Oh, yeah, that's true, live streaming. I'm doing that now. I think that has to be the answer. Oh, wow, log into Zoom, that's a good one.
Oh, my
Uva,
computer's downstairs.
I know, that's funny. Uva, did you have anything else? Was your Zoom as well?
Mine is literature review slash analysis. So a lot of my job is having to do a lot of research, and I think many will find out that when you're in STEM, there are a lot of papers that are published and a lot of kind of data and analysis that scientists use to confirm that something is actually working well for patients or for whatever the intended purpose is. So a lot of my work is helping hospitals, health insurance companies, retailers, whoever basically understand is the idea or the product that they're pursuing, is it clinically validated? So have there been scientists and researchers that have basically said, yeah, this works? So that's a good chunk of my job sometimes.
Yeah, and that's interesting because that's not somebody like some person thinking of STEM in school probably wouldn't normally think of literature analysis as a, integral part of a STEM job. So it's interesting that you bring that up. Yeah, I feel like that happens a lot in most positions as well, kind of finding that precedent and following it and making sure what you're doing is validated and correct.
Exactly, and you need a good understanding of STEM topics to be able to read those papers and understand actually what's going on.
Oh, for sure. All right, and our final one, it looks like a word that describes your job. I have a couple ideas. See if anybody follows what I'm thinking of. Uh, I'm locked in.
Hmm. I
It's a
think
big
I
book.
think I'm locked in too.
All right, you want to share?
So I tried to go through four different words. I had a lot of what was on the screen now, listening, learning, etc. But I ended up choosing lively, even though a lot of the times you think a desk job can be kind of boring. I think my job is really fast paced. And so even though I'm sitting behind a laptop, I feel like so many things are happening so quickly that it's almost like I'm being thrown into a bunch of different worlds. And, I guess I would say lively.
That is so funny because I literally just wrote down lively as well. And I was like, nobody's gonna get it because it's so far off.
Such
But
a unique word.
I know. I would totally agree. Lively is a great way to put it. And with many STEM jobs, I feel like every day is a new interesting adventure. And so lively is definitely a good adjective to describe it.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you guys for playing at home. Again, you can answer any or submit any questions you want via our Menti link. And we're actually going to kind of move into a segment. We're going to ask Uva a little bit more about her job and what she does. So, Uva, we know that you work a very interesting kind of unique job in STEM as a consultant, and you get to kind of touch a lot of different fields with that. And so, I guess my first question would kind of be, how did you decide? You mentioned you switched around a lot in college. How did you land on consulting, and kind of what brought you to that place in your life?
Yeah, so I mean, as I previously mentioned, I switched around a lot in college. I tried out a bunch of different things, and one of those things that I tried out was this honors program that basically brought together students that were in the School of Engineering, students that were in the School of like Natural Sciences and Mathematics, and then students that were in the School of Business. And so we built basically multidisciplinary teams, and then each semester we kind of gathered around a single project where we were asked to solve problems. And in our very last semester of that program, it was I guess, capstone project where we had to consult for a major company that was in the area. So I got the opportunity to work with a team over at Becton Dickinson, and they have this product called Lactinex, which is basically a probiotic that helps you digest your food, etc. And they asked us, we want to completely revamp this product. We want to, be competitive with all the other people that are selling probiotics. Can you help us do that? And so it was a really cool opportunity because one, we had to understand, what is a probiotic? What are the limitations around having to sell it? For example, you have to refrigerate this probiotic. And normally when you buy a drug at the, pharmacy, you go to Target, you pick your Advil off the shelf, and you don't have to go into a refrigerator or talk to the pharmacist. And so that was a big barrier for them being able to sell their product because no one wants to have to always go to the pharmacist and, open the refrigerator and go through this long process just to get a probiotic when you could just get, a generic store brand one that doesn't need refrigeration elsewhere. So it was a really cool chance for me to use the stuff that I had learned in my degree, but also kind of use it outside of how I'd learned it. I'd done an engineering degree. I had solved very specific problems that were, bio or human body focused, but now is an opportunity to use a lot of those elements in kind of a different environment. And so I thought it was really cool because, not a lot of people do engineering degrees and then end up going into kind of the business world. And so I found that I brought a different perspective to a lot of the conversations that I was in. And I really enjoyed being able to add that kind of opinion that wasn't really being added before into these conversations and allowing for a more holistic and well-rounded either strategy or way forward, etc. So it was really that honors program that gave me a taste of kind of, there's a business side to science, and there's a lot of things that you can still do with your STEM degree that doesn't mean that you're sitting in a laboratory all day or that you're operating on patients, etc. So that was kind of my first journey into consulting, and from there I found out about Deloitte, did the application, did the internship, loved it, and then started my career here.
That's great. And I know we kind of talked a little bit about how you worked with us before Learning Undefeated on our YSET program. We have a question that just came through from the audience. What was your favorite part of working at Learning Undefeated, and did you learn anything there that probably helped you kind of bring that new perspective to Deloitte as like a STEM person who then taught STEM education, who then kind of moved into business? There's a lot of angles that you're bringing to that job.
Now, one of my favorite parts at Learning Undefeated was probably one, the team that I was working with, and two, the chance to work with students. Because, as I'm sure many of you know, STEM topics can be really complicated. So, being able to break down a really complicated topic into simple building blocks to be able to explain it to someone that's either completely unfamiliar with the topic or someone that's struggling with it, it really helped me build my communication skills. Because when I got into the workforce, a lot of these companies, like hospitals, health insurance companies, they're dealing with really complex problems, especially when you think of the COVID-19 pandemic. They're dealing with the problems of how are we going to ensure to keep our medical staff safe? How are we going to ensure we have enough capacity, etc. And so what I really learned was, all right, we have a really complex problem. How can I break this down to one, be able to solve it, and then two, be able to communicate my solution and what the actual problem is to the people that I'm working with, to the public, etc.
Yeah, and you made a really good point there that it's like been very complicated. Some of the things that you work with are actually kind of difficult for a lot of people to understand, just people coming from different backgrounds and kind of obviously everyone is working in a very diverse area of their life and has a different understanding of each of those healthcare things. And oftentimes, a lot of kids and students kind of see that confusion and think, okay, STEM would be too hard for me. Like that job I don't understand. It probably would not work out for me. Did you ever kind of have that struggle? Like, did you ever look at a STEM topic and think, I don't know if this is right for me? And how did you kind of overcome that to kind of get where you are?
Oh, yeah. I mean, STEM has never been an easy journey. And I specifically remember a time, it was my first year of college, first semester. I had taken a physics test and I come out of that test and I was like, man, really aced it, feel good about it. I'm gonna have a piece of cake or something to celebrate. And then, a few days later, I got that test result back and I'd actually completely failed and bombed the test. And I was just like, oh my gosh, what happened? What did I do? I remember crying on the stairs to my mom saying, I don't think I can go into engineering. I just got an F. What am I going to do? And one piece of advice that she gave me, she said, the method that you use to study or the method that you use to kind of go about doing this test obviously didn't work. So why don't you try approaching it from a different angle and trying something different? And so that's when I said, you know what, that probably makes sense. I could probably really leverage a lot of the resources that are offered to me. So I started going to office hours with my teaching assistant and really started to understand, okay, one, where did I go wrong? Why did the last method that I used didn't work? And how can I change it? And what new methods can I use this time to, better improve that score? So I think one lesson that I really learned was there's a lot of different ways to approach a problem, and there's a lot of different ways to approach how you learn and understand STEM topics. And just because one way doesn't work for you doesn't mean another way won't. So it's kind of just like try again until you get it, because you learn a lot more probably from failing than you do from actually succeeding the first time.
Yeah, and that's great advice for any part of life, you know? That's kind of the nature of the scientific method even, is just to kind of continue failing until you succeed, right? Test your hypothesis until you actually find a solution. So, we're gonna end off this little Q&A segment. You've given some great advice for our audience. I hope everyone has been listening. Uva is obviously very talented at what she does, but we kind of like to ask, what is one of the craziest things that you've ever had to do for your current job?
Yeah, I have to rack my brain around this one because it is a desk job. So it's not necessarily like I'm, doing crazy samples or anything like that. But before COVID, my job actually required me to travel a lot. So on Monday mornings, I would fly out to wherever my client was located. So I had a client in Chicago. I would fly to North Dakota. I would go to Des Moines, Iowa. I used to go to Arkansas, a bunch of random places that I don't think many people would normally go for vacation or on their own. So I'd be gone basically Monday through Thursday, flying out to all of these different clients. So that's kind of crazy. But one time I was actually on a project where I had two different clients. One was located in South Dakota and one was located in Iowa. And one day I found out that I had to be in South Dakota on Monday, but Iowa on Tuesday. So I had to rent a car and drive, I think it was 4 or 5 hours through the Midwest to go from one meeting that was in South Dakota to one meeting in Iowa. And it was actually a lot of fun because a lot of the time in my job, you don't necessarily get 4 hours to yourself where you don't have to be on your laptop or working. So I just popped in some tunes, listened to music on my 4 hours down, decompressed, and it was actually really fun. But that was probably one of the crazier things I had to do on my job.
I gotta say, if that's the craziest thing, I think that's ideal. Stick with that. It sounds like actually really good fun. Big fan. Into our audience questions, we're gonna just do one more game. I know that you and I both talked before this, and we're a little bit worried because it's the backwards alphabet race. So we're gonna have to say the alphabet backwards as best as we can. I'm not very good at this, so forewarned to the audience.
That makes two
Ooh,
of
I don't
us.
know. Yeah. So, all right. I guess we'll go ahead. Our lovely Allie behind the camera will kind of time us, count down from 30. Um, if you want to play a sound when we should start, Allie. All right. Ready? Go. Z Y
P
S
Y X W
W V
B
U
U T S
T F
R
R
U
U P
P
O N M
L
A
O N M
J
L
I
J
H G
I H G E.
FED.
Yeah, no.
I hope nobody fact checks that because I don't think I
I
got it
don't think
right.
I got the right order.
All right, so I think I'm gonna give that one to Uba just because she's our guest and she's been such a good sport. All right, so we've got a couple more questions from our audience. One of them, it looks like somebody asked, what does Deloitte do? I know Deloitte's a very large company, so if you're able to kind of summarize that in a few sentences.
Yeah, so Deloitte does a lot of things, but overall, they're what we call a professional services company. So they essentially sell their people to different companies to do various types of work. So, for example, there is a tax arm of Deloitte that basically we have a I guess, branch of people that are really specialized in tax and will help a company file their taxes with the IRS. There is an advisory slash audit side of Deloitte. So basically, we have a bunch of accountants that will help companies keep track of all their financials. And then Lastly, we have a consulting side. So basically, people like me that studied STEM and other people that studied various different things in college, whether it was literature, politics, art, business, etc. They hire people that basically learned how to think really critically and learn how to use kind of an analytical mindset to solve problems. And so basically, what we do is we go to these different clients, basically these different companies, and they usually have these problems that they're not able to solve themselves because they either don't have the expertise or they don't have the resources or time to dedicate to the problem. And so we go in there and we help them solve that problem. So that's basically at the end of the day, Deloitte is just a bunch of people that get sent to different companies to help them solve the various problems they have.
I like that problem solver kind of title. I think that is probably very helpful for the rest of life. I could definitely use a problem solver right about now in this day and age. All right, and then it looks like one more question we have, which is something we've been mentioning a bit. What is YSEP, which is actually the Learning Undefeated program that you worked with? So if you kind of want to go
Why is
over
that?
that. Mhm.
Yeah, so it may have changed a little bit since I was at Learning Undefeated, but YSEP stands for the Young Science Explorers Program, and it's basically Learning Undefeated's summer program. So whenever I got to work with that program, what we did was offer summer camp to middle age or middle, not middle age, but middle school children at Montgomery Community College in Baltimore. And so it was a really fun week where we did a bunch of experiments, got to introduce some really interesting science topics like the lactase experiment I saw that someone wrote up when we did categories. And then another really cool aspect of that program was we got to take the students to different organizations and companies in Maryland to show them what STEM looks like in real life. So we did actually visit AstraZeneca. We visited the Maryland Waste Management, like kind of water management system. We went to different biotech companies and we got to talk to people that work there. We got to view all of the facilities. We got some pretty yummy lunch and some really cool swag. So all around, it's a really great way to spend a week of summer to get involved in some science experiments, learn something new, and start to kind of spark that interest in STEM early on.
Yeah, I don't think we could have said it better ourselves. It's a fantastic explanation, and I miss the yummy food and the swag. Hopefully, that'll be back soon. Now that COVID's hit, we're all
Yes.
kind of at home with our own swag. All right, so, I think if that's all the questions, I'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you so much to Uva. We can go ahead and give one last hand to Uva for joining us today.
Thank you guys. Always fun to be with the Learning Undefeated team.
It looks like we got one last question in last minute, hitting it under the wire here with our audience. Somebody asked how your work with Learning Undefeated prepared you for your next job.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the reasons why I wanted to work with Learning Undefeated was that the team structure and the organization itself is really different than the big company that I was about to move to. And so, what I learned at Learning Undefeated was really how to be flexible and adaptable. There was a small, agile team that I was working with, and it was really just myself, Joe, Emily, and our intern Riley that were kind of running this whole summer program. And obviously, dealing with middle school kids in the middle of summer with lots of energy, going to various different companies, having to set up all of these different lab experiments. Not everything went right, and that was totally okay because I learned how to deal with when things go wrong and what I need to do and how to be flexible and adaptable and how to think quickly on my feet when I have to figure out something in place of something else. So Learning Undefeated really gave me a chance to kind of like figure out, how do I be flexible, how do I be adaptable, how do I be creative when I have to think on my feet, and how do I work with a small team. So it was a really great chance to kind of have fun, use some of my STEM experience, and get a really good kind of introduction to the idea of like resourcefulness and flexibility before starting my big girl job, is what I call it at Deloitte.
And honestly, we miss you very much. Uva was fantastic when she was here. All good things. The team has just raved about her. And so, like as she said, Learning Undefeated, we're working very hard to make sure everyone is kind of getting their STEM education. We're very agile on our feet a lot. And if you guys want to check us out, we have our socials down below. You can check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you want to go ahead and check out the work Uva does, you can check out Deloitte online or go ahead and friend her on LinkedIn. All right. Well, I think that's all we have for today. Thank you so much again for joining us, Uva, and we will go ahead and sign off.
Thanks so much. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.